Welcome to week 3. I hope you are enjoying the course so far. The discussion certainly seems lively on the discussion board. So this week we're going to be discussing the behavioral and situational approaches in leadership. And I wanted to emphasize some of the points in the chapters which I found particularly interesting and noteworthy. The first is obviously the style approach of behavior versus personality, and you have a couple of studies which highlight the dynamics between how leaders act and then in terms of initiating and consideration in working with those they are leading. And that's what these two chapters are really about, is the dynamics and the relationship between the leader and those being led, because there is no leadership without followers, right? So the Michigan study stressed the continuum between employee and production orientation, task behaviors leading to goal accomplishment, and relation behaviors building support. So you need to work on both dimensions, I believe, is the point. And behaviors and what is done in situations are ultimately what matter. If you look at the leadership grid, I think it may be a different page number in the new text. I don't have it in front of me right now. But the positives of this behavioral approach is that it broadens the type of personality approaches we talked about previously. It's been substantiated in the research. It's at the core of the leadership process. And it acts as a template or a kind of mirror test, because you're measuring yourself in terms of the people who you are asking to follow you. The negatives of it is that we can't exactly prove that style impacts performance. The effectiveness of this model is a little inconsistent, and it kind of points the way to that a high task, high relationship approach might be the best, and certainly that does work, but it's also dependent on the characteristics of the leader. The situational leadership, which I think is really important to take note of, is where there's a match. So in this model, we look at leader being more directive and supported, based both on the competence and commitment of those being led, and recognizing what people need, adjusting the leadership style accordingly. So I have a very diverse agency. I have a child care operation, clinic, housing, community centers. Each one of those demands a different type of leadership because of the people who work in those different type of programs. The clinic is much different than the child care centers, where I might take on more of a directive approach as compared to a supportive approach in the clinic, where direction might not work as easily. The whole idea here is recognizing and adapting to the developmental level of those led. The positives are it's well known and accepted. It's kind of prescriptive. You can easily see what the point is here. It involves leader flexibility, and it's practical. The negatives are there's little research on the difference that this makes. There's some ambiguity in terms of followers actually identifying their needs, the demographics, and the match validity is a little tenuous, and competence and commitment are sometimes hard things to measure. So some other ways that I've looked at this is through various other people who have studied it, as well as management approaches that I'm familiar with. This comes from a text that I used to use when I taught this as a management class instead of a leadership class, but I think it fits that kind of prescriptive information that we know works with people. So you want people to work with you voluntarily and be led by you. Then one of the things the leader has to do if they're in that position is to make sure the job matches what the person's skills and interests are. Communications are clear. There's attainable objectives. There's accepted balanced control systems. They know what they can expect from the leader, and that the perceived benefits are known of what those being led feel that they're getting out of this endeavor or this relationship with the leader. Thoughtful supervision helps, being flexible, being consistent. The one that I have found to be most important is prompt settlement of grievances. People often don't expect the leader to be right all the time, but that they will be heard. And a leadership approach, which we are, I think, well accustomed to and able to implement with our social work backgrounds, is that the law of the situation, you unfold the facts, you allow the person to arrive at the decision. So leadership style is very much based on the situation you're in, the people you're leading, and your own personal characteristics, whether you're able to operate in this way. And attitudes have to do more with empathy, which remember is with the head, right? Sympathy is with the gut, with the feelings. Your own self-awareness of yourself and your capabilities, and being able to be objective in this situation. Kouzes and Posner, which you've been reading, talks about the collaborative model of leadership and how what the leader does, and they're very direct, as you probably gathered, fosters collaborations. How? By creating a climate of trust, by facilitating relationships. The leader strengthens others to act, enhances self-determination, develops competence and confidence. A coach, a mentor, recognizes contributions, acknowledgments, celebrates, rewards, personalizes the recognition, and celebrates those values and victories by creating a spirit of community, being personally involved. These are the things, the personal attention to detail, that really make a difference in people's lives that you are asking to follow you. Drucker goes into the relationship issues, especially in the types of world we work in, where we don't produce products, that you want to develop this relationship, then the kind of people decisions that get made by the leader are important. Who they hire, where they place them. There's that job matching again, and who gets promoted. And when you're seeking to develop people, you want to get that buy-in, you want to get that reciprocity. Build on strengths, plan for the long haul, be a mentor, a teacher, a judge, an encourager, not the overseer. Placing for strengths. And in the nonprofit world, remembering, as well as in the social service world, people work for a cause. Maybe not so much for the money, although that's important. And the types of things that a leader does is build teams, make sure that this is how you create the effectiveness, that staff clearly understand the job, that they're able to think through what's needed, that they educate the boss. What's meant by that is that people who speak up and tell the boss, the leader, if you want to use a different term, what's going on, and look towards the future, of course. He goes further to talk about this takes time, it doesn't happen right away, and look at all the skills. These are all skills that you learn in social work school: listening, role fitting, communicating, focusing on the task, having high standards. These read like the social work code of ethics. And of course, be sure that you are not misunderstood, that you seek the credit, that you not subordinates, that you're afraid of strengths. And anticipate crisis. Don't be afraid of your strengths. The leader is active in trying to impact and mentor those that they are leading. And finally, the outcomes, and this is the one I love the most, because leadership is not about making you indispensable. It's about making you dispensable. If you were to leave tomorrow, it wouldn't make much of a difference because you have left that infrastructure and that competence and that empowerment in those that you are serving. And that's why you develop yourself as a leader by serving others and furthering the human effort towards the achievement of organizational goals, matching that people and task, which I think is what these chapters task approach, which I believe is what these chapters thematically have been about.